We are recording with Miss Sarah Shores on Monday, August 26th, 2024 at 1:19 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm wearing my Warrington Wellness shirt, which was actually an accident. I would like to take credit for it, but it was not intentional. It was truly an accident, so it worked out well. I came down, so if it's the end of August, I came down at the end of July and
hmm
came and tried the Blue Room and I got to meet you. We got some awesome, gorged myself on Mexican and it was fantastic and I'm still exercising it off. But Miss Shores, please introduce yourself and then we can take it in any direction we want. But I would imagine whereas people can watch, your background is the Blue Room. We can just go in any which direction you like.
Well, thank you, Tommy. Well, I can start with, I haven't had a Blue Room my whole life. It was kind of, uh, it happened because of the Lyme disease that I got, for many years. And, I started out, at the Coast Guard Academy and then went into the Coast Guard for 20 years and then into the federal government and retired from that. But for over 10 years, I had Lyme disease near the end of that career. So I was in a lot of pain, and I used to be quite a big runner and very fit. And then I got to the point where I just couldn't even sit behind my desk without being in pain. And so the only solution at that time was more steroids or more antibiotics, and it just wasn't working. I couldn't, my quality of life was not that great. I couldn't exercise, and I felt horrible. And so I think when what flipped my switch in my head was when the doctor finally said, we really can't cure you. And I guess I was thinking the whole time that eventually this would just
Yeah.
go away. I had never been ill in my life, never been really sick, and living with pain was just some new reality that I did not enjoy. And at that time, that's when I started taking responsibility for my own health and realizing that I was giving my power away to the doctors, expecting them to wave their magic wand and fix me. And so that's when I started researching the Blue Rooms and went out to try one on the West Coast. And that really, uh, I had no idea at that point, this was many years ago, but I had no idea at that point that your gut was so important. And of
Mhm.
course, the antibiotics and the steroids really mess up your gut. And so in my first Blue Room session, I could feel stuff moving around and voila, no more gut problems. So that really sold me that there's something special here. Of course, they, talk about your mind, where your mind goes, your body follows. And they focus on that. And so that's what I worked on. And so after that, we just started driving up to Canada because that was closer and went every 3 months or so, every 3 or 4 months, and did several days in a row up there. And I just kept getting better and better. And then when I retired from the federal government, voila, I said, now I have the time. Why not? And it was really, so it's been quite a journey to get here. And I think, I don't have the traditional medical background, which is not required. I mean, it's a wellness device. It's not an
Mhm.
FDA approved device, medical device. So it's really a spa for your mind. So now that I'm really fine. I don't have any health issues. I use it more for the mental stress or, dealing with issues, emotional issues that help me, move to a better place where I let things go and stuff like that. Because I do a Blue Room almost several times a week now and really enjoy it.
Could you, I don't know, it's just now kind of dawning on me at 34 that I don't exactly know what Lyme disease is. I know that, or at least in most cases, you can get it from like a tick, like a deer tick or something.
Yes,
But
yes.
what is it? I should know that. I'm actually kind of embarrassed that I don't know what, but it just dawned on me. I'm like, wait, what exactly is Lyme disease? I know that Lyme disease exists, but I've never actually looked at what is it?
Well, you're lucky you don't have to know that.
It's very lucky, knock on wood.
Well, Lyme disease is autoimmune, and the origins of Lyme disease is up for discussion. There are
Oh,
many
is
books
isn't
out
it
there.
like Fort Detrick or Fort? I know that much too. Didn't it kind of come around
Well, it's
suspiciously in
kind
the
of
cold or
the
Plum Island or whatever? And I know it wasn't it aimed at like Soviet cattle or something. It's interesting.
well, it's interesting, but I think the first case was Lyme, Connecticut, which is maybe why they
Maybe you
call it
can,
Lyme
yeah, okay,
disease.
yeah.
But it's transmitted via tick, and of course I'm outside a lot. And at the time I was outside with horses riding, but I also work out in the garden quite a bit, and so it's transmitted with a tick, and when you first have it, it appears to be like flu-like symptoms. And sometimes you don't even have those, but I remember distinctly having the flu-like symptoms. And you think, oh, it's just the flu. And, it took probably almost a year before mine was appropriately diagnosed, which is common in Lyme disease cases because Lyme can imitate like over 300 other things. And eventually, if it's left untreated, it can advance to more of a neurological type display, which is where you get into some of the MS things, or, people have neurological issues. So it is a nasty thing, and the longer it goes undiagnosed, the harder it is. Things like antibiotics just don't work on it because it is a bacteria. But if it's been undiagnosed for a long time, the antibiotics are not all that effective, and
Hmm.
so they don't have a whole lot of treatments for it in the conventional world. So other than the antibiotics and the steroids. So it is a very frustrating, and I believe it's at epidemic levels. I know here in Virginia it is, and it's just spread. It's not really been all that slowed down, really, at all.
Can you explain? And yeah, I guess, disclaimer is like, it's not a medical device. Um, And I was thinking the other day, I probably should have started this 1,500 episodes ago. Just start the show saying this isn't medical, legal, or financial advice. But hey, whatever.
Hmm.
Hindsight's 2020. 1,560 episodes in. It's just now dawning on me. But hey, whatever. But so that's your direct experiences with Blue Room is your own personal day-to-day life. So it's not
Yes.
some abstract yeah, I tried it and I'm better. This is you're suffering with this day in, day out. Like you said, even sitting behind a desk, you're in pain.
Hmm.
Um, and you start doing this and you notice that you're getting better and better. Can you maybe, because I got to imagine it's just like you said, so it's after a year it got so bad, you start going, okay, this isn't the flu. Was
Right.
the
Right.
was the inverse kind of was it comparable to the inverse where it was you started doing the Blue Room and you noticed it was getting not as bad, like it didn't all come in much like the Lyme disease where it's not like you got it and that day a little alarm went off and said you have Lyme disease. Was
Right.
the inverse true, or it's not like you do the Blue Room and it's like now it's better? Is it something that you just kind of you noticed?
Well, for me, it was fairly dramatic because, and again, Lyme disease shows up different in everybody.
Yeah.
And so in me, there were phantom pains. Sometimes the knees were so painful. I remember I went and got them x-rayed because I thought for sure, okay, all that running. I mean, I used to run ultra marathons, which are like 50 plus mile races. And
Stay.
I thought, all that running, okay, it finally caught up with me.
Sure.
And I went and had my knees x-rayed, and this was, I was in my early 50s at the time. And the doctor says, "Oh, I kind of expected to see some really bad knees." He said, "But your knees are of a 30-year-old and they look fine." So you can't really track down what's causing the phantom pains. That's the neurological piece to it. But, for maybe a month or two, it might be these shocking pains in your knees that are really painful. And then it might move to a shoulder or some other place. And it just kind of moves around. And so, at least that's how it manifested in me. So when I did the Blue Room, again, the Blue Room is all about where the mind goes, the body follows. And so when I went in there to focus, every disease and emotion has a frequency, and they're all low in the low band of frequencies. And that's where we exist for most of our time. So as you move up in the frequency scale and up in the bands, ultraviolet light is, pretty high up compared to where we normally function. And that's the lights in the Blue Room is ultraviolet B. And that is not A, which is the tanning device. B is when it touches your skin, it produces the vitamin D, which at time, the other thing was not a single doctor in my conventional approach, because I didn't really have a whole lot of money to go do a lot of alternative things. It Not a single doctor mentioned that my vitamin D was like 7. And that's really bad. Normal is 20 to 100, and that 20 is still really low because optimal vitamin D in my research, again, not medical advice, is around 75 or 80. So I was really far out, and vitamin D really is important to
Mm-hmm.
your immune system. So, of course, how could I fight the Lyme disease when my vitamin D was so low? And none of the doctors really even said anything about it, and which is weird. And so, you certainly get a little burst of vitamin D in the Blue Room with the lights, but probably frequencies information. So when I quiet my mind down and I go to the higher frequency in the Blue Room, I get the information of what it is to be healthy, because at the ultraviolet level, that's where your original pattern is, and that is where you're healthy. So there is a place there out there that you are completely healthy and free of pain. So knowing that, I said, okay, I just want to go there, because at this point I'm pretty desperate. And so I just quieted my mind, and time goes by really, really fast when you shift to that different part of your mind to go to those higher frequencies, because your day-to-day mind, where you're doing your to-do list and what should I wear today and all that, that is where we get our reference for time. But when you shift to a different part of your mind, that time is very different there. So it seems like this, 20-minute session goes by really fast. And so that didn't seem very hard at all. But when you come out and you feel better, then you realize, okay, then you start being sensitive to, if every thought has a frequency, then what thoughts are keeping me in the old reality of being sick versus the new reality of being well? So I had to really contemplate that a lot, because over time you start getting used to accommodating the pain, especially when it's so chronic and it's with you all the time. And it really changes your personality too. So, you really start understanding how much you accommodate it, meaning you have all the special cushions in the car so that when you sit in the car, you're not screaming in pain. Or for me, it was my feet hurt so bad that when I got up in the morning, I dreaded putting my feet on the floor. And so the pain was just pretty significant, and my feet also were really swollen, and they went up like at least half a shoe size. And so it was not a easy existence. And so when I started contemplating the thoughts that kept me there versus focusing on the new reality of I've always been healthy, so my approach was, before I put my feet on the floor in the morning, I would just sit there and I would focus on my mind to say, I've always been free of pain, until I got to that place in my mind where I was always free of pain and I was not afraid to put my feet on the floor.
Mm.
And that starts the healing process, because you're really trying to get to that new neural net in your mind where you're always healthy. And then just and the Blue Room gives you the environment to make that very easy to do. So, some people call it a spa for your mind. I call it, heaven on earth, because it's generally I don't think I've ever had a session in here with all the sessions I've done that has been anything negative. I may go in there very angry at something, and it doesn't take long before I let it go. It's just the frequencies are just so loving and wonderful in there. It's hard to stay angry.
Mm. Yeah, and I get the same thing with meditation. Give me 1 second to turn off the air. But yeah, with meditation, I get the same thing in terms of like the passage of time.
Hmm.
It's and it always takes, you know, it's having been meditating for, I don't know, 16 years now. It always takes I don't know, 10, 20 minutes. And I don't really I've tried every meditative method under the sun, and really the only one I've found is just let 15 minutes go by. There's
Hmm.
no there's really I've truly I think tried every met from like staring at a candle to mantras to
Hmm.
I found that no, there's like the Alan Watts quote, if you want to settle muddy water, you don't interact with it because that just stirs it up more. You just simply let it all settle. And I found that
Hmm.
that's about the only thing I found that consistently works beyond, I guess, I don't know, the percentages of coincidence. It's the only thing that works most of the time and when you're still stuck in that sort of, what am I doing? What I got a podcast, I got a podcast, and after that I have them shorts, and after that I'm
Hmm.
wearing the Warrington shirt, and then after that I get to the ads, and after that I'm good, and then finally you'll have a little bit of mindfulness poke through,
Hmm.
and you're there,
Hmm.
and you're here, and all of a sudden you're not stuck in your memories or planning for the future, but instead you're sitting here Monday, August 26th, and you're like, oh, okay. And then without, just like you don't really remember falling asleep, you just wake up,
Hmm.
you'll fall back into thought. I gotta do this, and I got to do laundry, dishes, and then, whereas the first time it might have taken 10 minutes of thoughts to go by before the little sunlight of mindfulness pokes through the thought clouds,
Hmm.
the next one might be 5 minutes later, and then
Hmm.
maybe 2 minutes later.
Hmm.
And the gaps of no thought come faster and faster. And in addition to that, they start lasting for longer and longer. So the first one might have been 5 seconds, the next one might be 10, and the next one might
Hmm.
be 30. To finally you you're just here. And everything else, I always tell myself, I'm like, you have the rest of the day to think about thoughts. Like you can do it.
Right.
But I like my to-do list. Don't worry. You have the next 23 hours to do your to-do. But just try to sit there for in a 20 or 30-minute meditation. I might only get 2 minutes total
Hmm.
of mindfulness, of actually being it's really it's a small sliver of the pie of the meditative time. But in that sliver,
Hmm.
time is so disorienting. I
Hmm.
mean, it's not there. You're
Right.
mindful,
Hmm.
and then you realize, oh, you went 30 minutes over. You've been sitting there for an hour. And it is,
Hmm.
and it, but there is something very healing about just that little. And so the reason I'm talking about this for everyone listening is for you, it was, physical pain. I
Hmm.
told you, and I've told others, what the Blue Room did for me is it just kind of made me tired. And that is what, for me, a good, and for full disclaimer, that's what a good meditation is for me.
Hmm.
It's, I stop clenching. I stop like just constantly adrenaline dumping of
Hmm.
a million different things. And I just kind of I go, oh. And so that's what it did for me. I don't, knock on wood, I don't have any physical pains, but
Hmm.
that's what it did for me was that the same sensation I get from a meditation or a mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. I think meditation is the wrong word because conjures up a an image of like no, it's not that at all. It's
Hmm.
I can meditate in this chair looking at the window. But for me,
Right,
and it
right.
so you might go, well, then what's the point of doing it? If you do it for 30 minutes, you only get 2 minutes of mindfulness. Well, to me, it is on par with getting 8 hours of sleep in terms of it's part of my day. It is
Hmm.
legitimately part of my day. If I don't do it, I'm all off. I'm not a good podcast host.
Hmm.
It's like there's thoughts are like mosquitoes and they're just I'm trying to do it.
Hmm.
I'm trying to have a conversation, but I'm also like the washing machine mail and it's just flying all like emails and versus I always meditate right before a show because now I come in and for the most part, I'm just here.
Hmm. It's
So
about being more
yeah.
present, right?
Yeah. So that's what I got out of it for
Hmm.
it, again, I don't have physical pain, but for my mind, it had the same effect as just a brief meditation.
So I think, it's every Blue Room, every time you do a Blue Room session, it's different. There are no two alike. And I've done many, over the 4 years of having a Blue Room business. And of course, I did many before that, visiting different Blue Rooms. And every session is different because you're a different person when you go into each Blue Room session from day to day. And I think you probably found that out too in your meditation. Everyone, it's like every day is a different day. So what happens is it gets quicker, easier for you to do it because you're growing your neural net, you're practicing. So it's easier for you to go to that place in your mind, which is very peaceful. And that is a connection to some greater something within you that I think the Blue Room atmosphere makes it pretty easy to do for people like me who didn't have a meditation background. And, I was go, 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 uh, you know, have to get this done for work, worked quite a bit, many long hours. And, so that was one of those things that I never really slowed down to for meditation per se. And the sickness, the Lyme disease is what made me slow down finally. And that was the gift. I probably wouldn't have owned a Blue Room or even maybe even tried a Blue Room had I not been so ill. And I was pretty healthy, had a plan, had a map, was gonna do this by X time and do this by X time and all that. I had a pretty good plan. And so this was an interruption and it turned out to be actually where I really should be.
Hmm.
So, so I have to say that it took being sick to figure that out. And that's the course correction I think that happened that made me change where I was going in life. So, I didn't originally envision being a small business owner. And it's a lot of work when you're a one-man show. And, so it's not something I had really thought about doing when I retired. And so actually, it really definitely is a second career, and it's been actually very rewarding to see people. But what I've seen is if it's not pain, um, if there's mental things like anxiety or stress or the PTSD I think you talked about previously in with Mike Wright, all those things, the calming piece of the Blue Room has always been very helpful, has been my observation,
Hmm.
to get people to change their path and change their thoughts a little bit so that they not just going in circles. And of course, there's, you can always take different things to calm yourself down. But when you do it yourself with your own mind, then it's actually not only very rewarding, but you also have the knowledge that you can do it yourself again next time. And
Hmm.
so what it's about is to me is it empowers me to listen to me more, which I was really good at most of my life ignoring that voice in the head. I had to make some pretty stupid mistakes because of I just didn't listen. And so when you're in the Blue Room, you can really hear that voice. Maybe it says, turn left instead of when the directions say turn right. And, but the directions say turn right. But there's something in your head saying turn left, turn left. So you just turn left. And it turned out to be the right decision. So that's the atmosphere in the Blue Room is pretty unique and sets up some interesting results depending on the individual. So I would say that you know when I first started Blue Rooms, it was about pain relief. Now it's much more about emotional um, and trying to move beyond some emotional triggers or even stuff like things that I would say personal growth. And so that's what it's for me. But at the same time, I'm also getting a lot of really good health benefits out of it too, with the vitamin D. And I think Mike showed you also the picture of the dark field live blood analysis where the
Hmm.
blood was definitely improved in a Blue Room session.
I, I don't know how we quantify this, but like, you're a very peaceful person, and it's I mean, as someone that's done just 1,000, I think this is 1560, 1,560. I I have s- I would like to say I have some experience with talking to people, just to a degree.
Hmm.
It's one of the few things I can claim at 34 to have wisdom about. But I think podcasting's probably one of them. And you're a more peaceful than not person. It's happens to be a compliment, but I'm not even trying for it to be a compliment. It's just it's an objective observation. Um, is that something that you've always, and this is where I don't know how we would prove it or answer accurately. Have you always been that way? Has it been before or after? Is it something that happened recently, but it's independent of the Blue Room? Is it through meditative practices or a change in outlook or more of an accepting that, maybe your life map isn't the one that adhered to, whatever grander plan there is for you? But as far as things go, have you kind of always been more of like a soft-spoken person? Is that I don't really know how to.
Absolutely not.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
So that's the funny part. I mean, you probably can't get any more type A than me. From high school on up. Had to
Mm,
have 100% on the test. 98% was not good
not
enough.
enough.
The perfectionist type A personality, very driven, over preparation, a little bit of all that, which serves you well when you go down, if you're like I was have an engineering degree, so I did a lot of project management. And you learn to soften it a little bit because over time you're obviously supervising people, so you can't be over the top. But I would never quantify myself as a calm person. I would probably say I was probably a lot more like a stress chicken, although I learned ways to hide it. But the sleepless nights, all of that stuff, because it was all about I had to succeed, because I needed to go to the next step.
Mm,
And so I think the getting sick where you can't control things anymore was the first step in my contemplation of, okay, so I can't do or have the same approach as I've always had. Something has to change. So over the time, the Blue Room has helped me significantly come to terms with that. And why was I that personality in the first place? Can I let it go and still, success is still important to me in the sense that I'm not having a business just to survive.
Yeah.
So, which is why, we are a little bit driven in the sense that we were voted, best in the Fauquier County 4 years in a row now. But so the driven part, though, is coming from a different place. And that is the Blue Room has definitely got me there. And that is because the Blue Room gives me the space to try to uh, figure out the limitations of my personality and move beyond that. And it's a nice quiet place. And now I'm more into I would like very much to live an unlimited life, meaning if there's a dream I want, then I go get it. And instead of having this really structured plan, and which there's nothing wrong with the plan, but
Sure.
it's limiting. Why not live unlimited and
Mm.
start really trying to think out of the box? If I could live an unlimited life, what is it that I really want? And that the Blue Room gives me the place to dream like that and really create a space in my head to allow for those unlimited dreams. And I would have never been that way without having the space inside the Blue Room for that.
Hmm.
And so I kind of laugh when you said I was a calm person, because that is truly, truly not what people who know me, 15 years ago would have said.
Yeah, no, I was just laughing. That would be That'd be like if years from now somebody asked me, like, have you always been a mild-mannered, calm person? I'd be like, huh? I mean, the I don't know how to take time off. I legitimately don't know. I don't know what to do with my
Right.
hands. I freak out and just start working. But it is ultimately kind of a, I don't know. I don't know how much this has to do with the Blue Room, more so just thought. It is a place I'd like to get where, I've gone through phases in life where I think it's bad being type A, and then I fluctuate back to it's necessary and I need it to survive, to where I am now is more of like a detached. I just enjoy the process of being type A. It's like
Mhm.
it's like not looking at music as if it's, I don't know, righteous or not, or good or
Mhm.
not. You'd be like, I
Mhm.
don't care what, I enjoy it. It's just what Bob Marley, Led Zeppelin. You're like, you don't apply like, is this song good for the economy or something? You're like, I'm just listening to some music. Like what
Mhm.
up? And I'm not trying to, but I'm arriving more and more at that spot with my own kind of hyper type A tendencies where now it can suck me in sometimes if I'm not careful. But now I just kind of look at it like it's something I enjoy. I feel like I'm more than anything like I'm witnessing it. I'm like
Mhm.
more challenges are being presented and I'm just throwing every ounce of energy I have at the challenge and wargaming it and flow charting it and but
Mhm.
I've stopped looking at it, or I'm trying to stop look at it like it's inherently good or inherently bad. And more I'm watching it like I'm watching maybe a sunset or something. It's just a
Mhm.
thing happening. And I'm like,
Well,
isn't that
congratulations. That's wonderful.
I'm trying.
You know,
I'm not
that
there yet. I'm trying.
well, the detachment is wonderful because having a type A personality, whether it's good or bad, that's a judgment.
Yeah.
And when you judge yourself, which you're always your greatest enemy, or greatest judger,
Yeah.
they that keeps you in the same box. So you want to let that go. And all of this, the way to move beyond it, at least for me, is I've really had to learn a lot about self-love. And when you really just stop judging yourself and saying, well, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and this is the schedule of my how my life is going to progress and all that. When you let all that go and you realize that it's a very loving thing to do, just to allow yourself. It doesn't mean you know, when I still have that, the what you would call the type A tendencies, meaning, like I said, I have to have everything set up right. I have a vision, all that, but I'm detached about it, and it doesn't control me now like it used
Hmm.
to. And like you said, you observe it. So it's the and that comes from a much more loving place. Or if you say you have a podcast that doesn't go as well as you thought, instead of, judging yourself or saying, well, I should have done this, I should have done that, you let it go and you realize, well, I can do better next time. And, try to think of more positive, loving thoughts instead of the things that, beat yourself up, because that keeps you where you are. And again, if you're going to live an unlimited life, you don't want to stay where you are. And so all of that self-judgment holds you back. And so the loving piece is to allow yourself to do what you want to do or how you want to do it, but be detached about it.
Hmm.
But anyway, I think
Hmm.
also the interesting part about the Blue Room is since everybody's experience is different, and some people use it for pain relief like I did, and now some people use it for, more of a spiritual relief, meaning, the anxiety, relief from anxiety and things like that. And it also gives you a feeling of what it is to be really relaxed, which most of us in this world just don't get to that point. But and without any kind of um and it's pretty quick. I mean, it's 20-25 minutes, and you feel wonderful. And but it really is a unique environment, and I think what people don't seem to understand is it doesn't have, my guess is it, for people who just come in, and have never meditated before, I usually try to help them with some coaching, as far as, focus on your breath, slow it down, and that helps quiet, your frontal lobe area where your to-do list is. And then when that's quiet, then you can actually shift to a different part of your mind. So it's that shifting to that different part of your mind that we just don't do very much of. And you don't have to do it all day long. And like you said, with the meditation, which is wonderful, when you shift it, time is different, and that's what's really kind of fun.
Hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about that, I think maybe yesterday, about kind of being type A. And I'm more so, there's a fine line of like rolling with the punches and being a pushover. And there's a fine line of inserting new habits and destructively trying to control the world around you. Because I mean, the very fabric of this existence is that it's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's entropy, enthalpy. It's that's just part of it. And you don't want to be a pushover and go, well, this is who I am and nothing can change. Well, that's how you go your whole life without, really enacting any real change in yourself. But you also don't want to be doing this, that, and we're doing this today. You do have to kind of learn how to roll with the punches. And again, with the type A thing, I I think it was yesterday I was meditating and I was looking at it and I was just like, you know, it's I have to meditate because if I don't, I can never take a moment and just pause and be happy with what it is I've done in my life and on a more micro level what I've done with this podcast. Like I've got the equipment I want, I've got the thumbnails I want. To grow the audience. I want it to go into infinity, but I'm on the path. It's making some money. It's kind of everything
Mm-hmm.
is. And a year ago, I was at a spot that 3 years ago I couldn't have dreamed of. And and every year it gets better and better and better. And then
Mm-hmm.
every year I'm always like, okay, where do I go next? Where do I go next? Where do I go next? And I oscillate back and forth between like, you need to learn how to sit here and go, I'm proud and I'm grateful for what it's done.
Mm-hmm.
But I find if I try to completely ignore the type A part, that's like where we go next. How are we improving it more? What do we do? It's very unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bear being like, I'm just not eating steak anymore. I'm a new person. I'm eating dandelions. You'd be like, hey, it's not bad to get some fiber in your diet, but you're a bear.
Mm-hmm.
This is your nature.
Mm-hmm.
You see a deer walking by, you're like, that's my buddy. It's like, no, it is your soul to go rip its head off with your teeth. Like, so, and I know this is just a meandering thought, but I'm trying to sit with it and be happy with it and be like, I am proud. And if it starts to eat up at me like I'm not doing enough, I have to be like, hey, 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 you've come a very long way and you should be proud of yourself. But I'm trying to not look at the type A thing as something that by definition, its very existence needs to be chained or put on a leash. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I deeply enjoy just taking something and moving it up. I just it's like in my soul that it's like, okay, cool. The podcast is here. We're at 40,000 subscribers. How do I get the thumbnails to be more eye-catching?
Mm-hmm.
How do I fine-tune the audio a little more? How do
Mm-hmm.
I promote it that much better?
Mm-hmm.
And if you let it run, sure, it can breed misery. But I'm trying to look at it as like, I think it's just who I am. Some people are monks up in a monastery who take a vow of silence and have rosary beads, and that's all well and good. Some people are just crazy and need to dial it up to the next level, and I think that's more so what I am. And I'm trying to, and I don't know what exactly this has to do with the Blue Room, but more so I'm just kind of running my mouth. It's like I told you on the phone, a podcast is just me running my mouth. I'm trying to just come to peace with it more and be like my dad's type A. My dad's type A. My dad's like type Z, so type A. And he
Mm-hmm.
was like retired from being a sales executive for decades. And every day he's out like chopping wood, building shit, like. And at first glance, you'd be like, hey, what's the point? You're retired. And the more I look at it now, I'm like, yeah, this was always going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's retirement is that he's doing the work he wants to do now. But if my dad has to stop working, he'll die. And
There's
it's,
nothing, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
yes,
Just like there's nothing wrong with being a type A. What you're trying to change is the self-destructive thoughts that, oh, this isn't good enough, or where that
yeah,
the source of that type A personality may come from, you know, being insecure and needing to be top of the heap. And so when you do Blue Room sessions, you get to contemplate all that and figure out that and replace those self-destructive thoughts with more loving thoughts. So it helps change your neural nets, meaning it gives you a quiet place to do that. And it's like I've said, the unique environment of, it's an octagon with the polished stainless steel on the floor, ceilings, and walls, which is it's really beautiful when you see it, and very space agey looking. But it's disoriented, so the personality in this frontal lobe here can't figure things out anymore, which is one of the fun things about the Blue Room is you can't the personality can't figure it out. Says, well, how's this going to work? It's music, it's a tone. We pick frequencies based on what you want to work on, meaning, the concept of rifing. Every disease has a frequency, whether it's, allergies or back pain, that has a frequency. So you match that frequency and it destroys it. And that's the rifing concept. So that's what your tone up by your head is. And you have all of that in the room at one time, and the personality just has to let go because it can't figure it all out. And I've tried to recreate with the music and tone without the Blue Room, and you don't get the power of the room and the lights. And some people are, a little bit intimidated by the lights because of all the things we've learned about or been told about sunlight. It's which is, I think, that's a whole nother discussion. Sunlight has been we've been told keep your kids out of it. And how many times do you see these little kids in strollers and their parents are just gooping them up with all those chemicals and sunscreen? And it's really the sunscreen. The kids aren't getting tan, so they think they're protected, but reality, it's making things much worse. So so we're all this worried about the sun, and which is unfortunate because 100 years ago the sun was used for like 165 different part of the treatment for like 165 other ailments. So getting out in the sun is really a good thing. Now, I'm not advocating 8 hours in the sun, but some sunlight every day to keep your vitamin D levels up is always wonderful. And so for those of us who can't get out as much as we would like, the Blue Room is provides some of that sunlight. And so that in itself with it gives you some health benefits as well. But the big thing is just letting go of the self-judgment, and the calming place in the Blue Room has allowed me to do that, and has allowed me to really go on a wholly different towards an unlimited life, and really start thinking about other types of dreams that I never would have bothered to think about because my brain was so busy putting myself down that, well, you could have done
Mm,
that better, or you really should have done that, that kind of stuff.
mm. Yeah, I'll get that sometimes too. Or it'll be a choice. It'll be like, do you want the podcast to improve? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to save more? Do you want to? And sometimes the little thought just kind of breaks through, like, why does it have to be one?
Mm-hmm.
And then instantly your brain's like, well, because you can't have everything that's good, and you gotta, and it's like, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of walking to like the edge of, established like 500 years ago, like the edge of an established map.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, I mean, be cautious, but also don't fear it. I mean, just because it's the edge of a map doesn't mean that you're necessarily walking off a cliff. You
Mm-hmm.
you, you can just kind of go boldly and go confidently. And I'm trying to do that more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using this episode with you as just like venting therapy, but it's I'm trying to, like I said, I don't want to put the type A back into a bottle or chain it up.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, you should be proud of
yeah,
the fact of who you are, and
yeah,
you should love who you are.
yeah,
And that's what makes you unique. So the fact that you get her done a lot of people can't do that.
yeah.
So that's who you are. It's the self-destructive thoughts that, oh, I should have done this, or I could have done it better, or I didn't do it good enough, or those are the ones you want to let go of, and enjoy the other ones. And so it's again, it's all about having a space to do that. And
Hmm.
you know, I can't help but think, with the Blue Rooms being worldwide, and I think Mike said in the last podcast that they have done over 500,000 sessions. in that, and they do track them worldwide. So I can't imagine how wonderful that must have been for all the changes that it's made in people just because of what I've seen. People come out, they feel better, they're more relaxed, they have a whole different outlook than they did before, meaning, if they had a problem that was bothering them, now they can go out and solve it.
Hmm.
And or they may even the solution might have come to them in their mind in the Blue Room. So that alone has been really rewarding for me to watch. And I can't obviously get inside everybody's head and really do a thorough analysis, but my observation is that people have a different outlook on life in themselves after they've done a Blue Room session.
And that's what I'm trying. Yeah. That's, yeah. I think trying to not let it beat me up, but also not shun it for the sake of shunning it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
you guys saw, we're all unique, and we all have these standards that we apply to ourselves, and letting that go, but also understanding that you're unique in the universe. And so whatever path you decide to take is your path, and and it's going to be wonderful. So, the Blue Room has made me much more mellow when it comes to myself, I guess, than I would have normally been. And
hmm.
like I said, the the driven part's still there. I mean, you've seen all my flower gardens I have. I really like flowers, and I really like trees. So we just keep going.
Yeah.
And so and it's for us and our pleasure and loving nature and all that sort of stuff. But the point is, there's a driven personality in there who wants to keep having, well, let me do this one. I want to see what this looks like. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's actually very loving because, as I think I probably mentioned before, is we provide a lot of feed to the deer that go through. They eat a lot of my flowers and stuff, and they enjoy it. So,
Yeah. It's loving in that it's ultimately it's creative.
hmm, right. And that's one of the benefits. People do tell me that they feel more creative, or it helps with some of their creative things after a Blue Room session. And you can probably chalk that up to when you quiet down that frontal lobe to-do list area, you get to tap into a different part of your mind in the Blue Room. So that's probably a good uh, consistent thing is that they do get to uh, feel more creative. They're a little bit more self-aware of things, and that's probably been both of those I have felt in my sessions.
Hmm. Um, Miss Shores, we're coming up on an hour, so I say we wrap this one up. Um,
Okay.
thank you for being my therapist. Thank you for letting me run my mouth and kind of put my thoughts down out in front of myself so I can look at them and observe them and I don't know, come to peace with them. I know that
Hmm.
my ramblings didn't really have a whole lot to do with the Blue Room, but I don't know. Apparently, clearly, it's been on my mind and I needed to get it out. And like I said, you're a very peaceful, welcoming soul. So, like it or not, you were the target for my stream of consciousness today.
No problem. Yeah, and would love to have you come back down to Warrington
Yes,
Wellness when you
ma'am.
get a chance.
Oh,
It's
I
such a
will.
long trip though from Portland
Yeah,
to
I know.
Virginia.
I'll come down. I'll come down like I'll come down next year. I'd love to again. I had a fun time. I had a great time. I watched X-Men movies, ate Mexican food, ordered pizza. It was great. I had a great time. It was great for me. I mean, as someone that I'm sober, so I don't really have any other, I guess, quote unquote
Hmm.
party in me. So to me, that was my old man party, was getting a hotel room and doing the Blue
Hmm.
Room and watching movies.
Hmm.
I had legitimately had a great time. So I would love to play that
Wonderful.
again. Um,
Well, and I think I can guarantee you your Blue Room sessions will be very different this time than they were last time, just because you'll be a different person.
yes, ma'am. Well, Miss Shores, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. As always, guys, you go in the description, you find the link to the Blue Room. Um, and I would love to have you on again, have you on again sometime.
Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I will be down there again, whether or not you guys like it. I will show up and bang on your door. Um, and guys, thank you. Well, I guess nobody's watching right now. This one's not live. I will send you this episode, and you watch it at your leisure.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, guys. Please go in the description. Please go find a Blue Room link. Go find a location near yourself. Um, yeah, thank you so much, Miss Shores. Till next
All
time.
right.
Thank you for your time. Guys,
Take
thank you so
care.
much for watching. You too.